The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, and with that, we will go ahead and get started. I am Sherry Gunsviller. I work with Design Solutions, and we go ahead and we are a VAR in the Michigan and Indiana area, and we also have offices in the California and Arizona area, which used to be known as Digital Dimensions, which is now part of DESI as well. I have a counterpart here with me, Dennis Streeter, who is on our sales side, who will be assisting me with this presentation. Dennis, are you there?
Hi, Sherry. Yep, I'm here. Good to be with everyone here as well today. Looking forward to seeing what you've got to present for us.
Awesome. All right. Well, I am going to start out with, obviously, we know that everybody has the effects of change going on in their lives, whether it be both in their home life and their work life. Everywhere there's change. No matter what you're looking at, change is the only constant that there is. And of course, in work, that is pretty much something that happens on a regular basis. And so, of course, then you start looking at the fact that change isn't something that you do once and it's over with. It's an ongoing process that you deal with continuously. Before I go any further, Dennis, if you would, could you please put up the poll just to make sure that everybody can actually hear us?
Using the computer I have today, it looks like there's another module that needs to download that I don't have, Sherry.
Okay, give me 1 second here, then let me see if I can find the full questions. I think I may have actually closed that part because I wasn't thinking I was going to need it since you were going to be doing it. All right.
That would probably be Murphy's Law of webinars.
Yeah, that's pretty much the typical, isn't it? Let's see here. What else do I have? All right. Give us 1 second here. Sorry for the technical difficulty. We were dealing with, Dennis had a crash on his computer earlier today, and so he does not have his standard computer. Well, it looks like I am just going to ask that if anybody cannot hear me, I'm going to go ahead and put out here to everyone, can you hear me? And if you can, great. Let me know one way or the other. Whoops, helps if I learn how to spell.
And you can always use the chat window for that as well, that if you have questions during the webinar, or if you're having some kind of difficulty hearing us, pop a message into the chat window. And the best option if you're not able to hear us is to reboot the system.
All right, yeah, it looks like we're getting some responses here all saying that yes, they can hear me. All right, so what did you think of my first video that I tried to create there? That was my first attempt to try and to create a little movie that would help entice and excite you about doing electrical, because I know some people do not feel that it is, you know, the most interesting or exciting thing in the world. I kind of enjoy it, and that seems to be the case. So I guess we're just going to have to utilize responses through the question or chat window here. But anyway, okay, so we're talking about changes changes are a process and not just an event. And so because of that, even with the electrical, any of the changes are actually a process that happens with the SQL. And so what we are talking about is getting right into the SOLIDWORKS Electrical Schematic software. And I'm going to be covering a couple of different areas, but we're going to also kind of venture into a little bit further, even though I'm talking about wire numbering, cross-referencing, terminals, and page addition. Now, my first question to everybody here is, what size projects do you normally deal with? Do they have 1 page? Do they have 5 pages? Do they have 10? Do they have 100? What size projects do you normally deal with? Because that kind of gives me a better understanding. You know, if we're dealing with a lot of the customers that are online that are saying either 1 project or 1 sheet in a project, or maybe 5 sheets, compared to somebody that's doing 10 to possibly 20, 50, 100, you're talking about a number. A change can obviously drastically affect how much time you are spending making those changes, especially if someone is looking at making changes to a project that was from 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. You're talking about taking up extreme amounts of time because you're not even familiar with what the project was. And so at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into the software here, because of course I have this project. Now this project, what I did is I created it both in the SOLIDWORKS electrical environment, and I also created it in another software. So I also have this in DraftSite. Now the reason I have it in DraftSite is because if you're in DraftSite, it's just another CAD product. That CAD product could have been, you know, something like Visio. It could be AutoCAD. It could be something that you are using right now. But that software is not an intelligent software. So what I'm talking about here is, of course, I've got to go search for my project. I have to figure out, okay, where was this? Where do we put it? Especially if you're not using a PDM or a data management system, then of course it becomes even harder to find the files. For me, I've got them here to make them easily accessible. So here I've got the same sheet as I've got in my SOLIDWORKS Electrical Schematic. Now we're talking about wire numbering. Now, wire numbering, you know, if I'm dealing just with one area, so if I'm dealing with something small, like this wire number right here, of course, it would just be a matter of going ahead and making a change to it, and I could say that it was L12 instead. So it's nothing major here when you're dealing with one wire. However, the bigger problem becomes if you are dealing with a common or a multi-set of wires that you are using throughout the project. Here I have just this one wire that is 60231. All right, well, making that change becomes fairly easy because, of course, all I'm doing is just making a change to it. But where else is it used in the project? Well, I don't know, because I don't have an arrow here. Whoever designed this last did not make those changes or did not finish the project. Okay, so the only way to go through it is to just start opening up other sheets, going through those other sheets, seeing if it's got the wire number. I'm going to leave this number. Yep, notice this one. Well, this one, because it didn't have the arrow, it didn't get updated, so I guess I need to update this one. So again, all I'm going to do is, okay, what number did I use? I think it was this one. Again, if I am making multiple changes, it could be that I am now having to, oh shoot, now I've got to go to page 8 too. All right, so go to page 8, open up page 8, make the same change here. Where is it? I got to find it first. Okay, here it is here. All right, so yeah, I hope that's the right one. Let's just go ahead and make that change here and hope that I got the right thing. Come on. I guess I just need to type it in there. 06020, I think. Oh shoot, I didn't type that in right. I still caught the 1. Again, I'm making another change. And why am I making this change? Because, okay, great. This is what I need to do with my project, but I'm having to redo things. Even if I make a quick typo, I'm having to fix that typo, and then I'm having to go through and, okay, so now, oh shoot, look at that. It's now going to page 9. So now I've got to open up page 9 and do the same thing one more time. So this becomes very time-consuming when you are dealing with the fact of having to make those changes throughout a project, especially if you're dealing with 5 pages, 10 pages, 15. What happens if somebody didn't put in the origin destination arrows right? Now all of a sudden I'm having to deal with going through and verifying by printing it out or viewing everything and creating those changes that I'm having to keep track of. Well, this is a tool. You know, I love working with my hands, and I've learned that over the years the job goes easier and faster and cheaper if you've got the right tool for the job. Now, yeah, I've done my share of making do with the tools that were designed for one thing, but I wanted to use them for something else. Case in point, most mechanical companies have a design tool for the mechanical engineers. They then force the electrical engineers to use that same tool or make do with what they've got in order to continue. And I've always found that it always goes the same way. I lose time, I lose money, and I always lose a piece of my mind every time in the process because it is just such a tedious aspect. Rather than me doing the design, I'm having to constantly audit myself. That being the case, let's look at this tool that was designed specifically for you for the electrical schematic. Now, the first thing we did was we changed this wire style. I can change the wire style. It does have more than one mark. It actually has two because you are looking at the two ends of the wire. So here I'm going to go ahead and just make it L112, just like I did on the other one. The other part was, okay, so we have this wire number here. Notice that it doesn't have the additional wire marks either. Here's what I'm going to do. I am going to edit this wire mark and put in that 0602. But what I am also going to do is now add an origin destination arrow, which of course in draft site I would have to add not only the arrow symbols, but then I'd have to add the text and then go from there. Notice that I can't even change, if I'm going through these single origin destinations, I can't even cross circuit. I can only use the same type. But not only that, but here's what happens. When I do this, I also get these blue dots. What are the blue dots? Well, when I look at this, I can actually see that I have a wire number conflict. And it's showing me what these other ones are. So I can pick this wire number and now distribute it through the entire project everywhere that it is used. I don't have to go searching. I don't have to go ahead and make those extra additions. The edit's done. I can now go right here, go to this go-to statement, and it takes me directly there. Notice that it's making that change. Not only that, but I didn't have to open up the page. It's opening it up for me. It is then taking me directly to it. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to do a go-to here. Make sure that page 8, notice it's also changed. Page 9 is exactly the same. One change, and I don't have to do any auditing. All I have to do is simply make the change and know that it has been made everywhere. I can even come right back here, and if I now change that mark to something else, everywhere it is registered, it will make that change, and I can type in whatever and not worry about the fact of did I type it right. When I make the change, it puts it in. It puts it in throughout the project. Again, a right-click go-to will take me directly to that. Notice it's typed exactly the same. That being the case, that is exactly what I'm talking about, is saving you lots of energy when you are working with this, because of course, when you are working with our software compared to some of the other CAD tools, you are dealing with the fact that you're not having to audit your work. You make a change, it's done. You don't have to feel that you have to do a whole lot of audits. We do have things as audits to help you, but in itself, the SQL database in the background is going to help you maintain your work so you can do design. Dennis, do you have anything further that you'd like to add?
Thanks, Sherry. Good example of how numbering can kind of get out of hand. That was a fairly simple one with just a couple of pages that you're working with. A lot of our customers fall into what I'd say mid-range project size, 5 to 10 pages of documentation for their electrical systems. So think about the cases where you've had changes come into play with wire numbering and what that means to you and the number of pages that you have to go. Not only the pages, but you actually have to find that old value and make sure that you've located on each of the pages as well. It can be a time-consuming and rather annoying task. That's all I got, right?
Annoying is an understatement. I used to hate actually picking up somebody else's project and having to figure out what they did, where they did it. And then, of course, if it wasn't documented correctly, oh my Lord, it would take some time to actually fix.
Yep.
Which takes
and
it
some
right
of the 2D
into
tools, I'd say just, kind of wrapping up this as well, some of the 2D tools, and we'll talk about those as we go on, have some things like search and find that you didn't have in earlier days, too, that make it a little bit easier.
Oh,
but think
sure.
about the tools that you are using today as we talk with you and share some of this information, and maybe relay some of that on to us. in the chat window as well, some of the things that you like or don't like necessarily about what you've got in place today. And with that, turn it back to you for the next subject here, Sherry. Thanks.
All right. Yeah, so now let's move right into cross-referencing, because obviously cross-referencing, when you are in an area like the draft site, what I used to do is not something like what you see here. These contacts are something that is a little bit more of the newer style, where you can actually see, I'm not sure if you can actually view that set of contacts real well or not, if that's coming through with the black background. But it's a contact view of where all these cross-references are at. This is not the style that I'm used to actually working with. When I actually do this, what I am looking at is my old projects would be something like this, where I'd have a motor starter or a contactor, and I'd have the text next to it. And if the text was a normally open contact, then I would put the normally open contact number of where it was physically located, and then a star for a spare. You didn't know whether the spares were normally open or normally closed, because of course most likely you'd forget to put the line underneath the cross-reference. So of course, if I was talking about doing that, I'm talking about just doing a line. You would do a line under the specific part, and that way it would tell you that that was a normally closed contact for that specific position. Here, of course, you know, same type of thing. If I go ahead and add a contact, and let's just do that by going to sheet number 6. Obviously, I need to go to sheet number 6 in this draft site, come here. Of course, now if I make a change, I'm going to do something like this, and let's see, we're going to copy all of that, right-click, copy, and then I'm going to do a paste, and I'm going to paste it down here. Yep. Put it right about there. Oh, wait. Yeah, right there. Come on. I guess I have to put it down, grab it. Yeah. Ah, it doesn't want to paste for me now. All right, let's just take the contacts. Right-click, copy with the reference, and we're going to paste it right here as well, and I'm going to put it right there. All right. So of course, obviously, I don't have anything set up as far as the different pieces here. I am not a draft site pro by any means of the stretch of the imagination. I'm sure whichever tool you are working with, you are an expert in that, and so what might take me a few minutes would possibly take you even less time. But if I make a change here now, all right, so if I do that, let's see, can I just make a change here? Yeah, I can go ahead and make a change to that piece, and I'm going to say that this is H20 is my relay. All right, great. So I just looks like it didn't make that change. But I know that this is what I want to edit. Well, it turns out that, okay, I've got to edit the attribute block, all right, which is where I was. That says 820 for the cross-reference. Where's the text? Oh, there it is right there. All right, make this change here to the motor starter and say okay. Oh, again, I made a change, and if you've got an intern, guess what? You're going to really have to check their work, because, of course, if they do anything like what I just did, you're going to have to be checking all of that. 820 motor starter. So that's what it should be. All right, here's my 820. Well, now, of course, I now need to go to where it's being used. Now, notice, okay, so this is sheet number 6. We started at row 14. Okay, so now I have to go back to my other sheet for the cross-reference here, and okay, 820 motor starter. Now I've got to edit this text, and when I edit that text, all right, so I'm going to come over here and make a change to the text, and I'm going to say that that was 0614 0614 0614, and now a star is what I want it to be. All right, so there I've got it now. Okay, so that's what it would be now. So for the next part, All right, so this is now correct. Okay, well, now I've got to add, now I want to add another contact. Well, to add another contact, now I'm going to have to draw the contact, and then I'm going to have to, wherever I place it, also do the same type of thing with making another change to this. So, of course, now I am dealing with even more text to change, and I'm having to make sure that I update this. I know a lot of people don't even bother to put the cross-reference in. Why? Because it is just a nuisance to constantly have to make sure, where is that relay? How is it made? Did the numbering get changed? So, of course, if I even change this motor starter number here, now all of a sudden I've got to go back to that other sheet and make another change. So you start getting into the fact of, oh my Lord, just changes everywhere for every little piece. What if all of a sudden my customer says to me, I don't want to have sheet number followed by row number for the wire number. I want to have them in just consecutive numbering. Okay, so now you're talking about going back through your entire project, and you are now having to go to each wire and saying, okay, this is wire number 1, this is wire number 2, this is wire number, oh my Lord, that's just going to be absolute misery. If you're in the SOLIDWORKS Electrical, let's start with the first instance. So the first instance we were just talking about, let me go back to page 6 here. What we have that I was having trouble doing is something like this, where I don't want to necessarily grab that extra piece. So I'm just going to uncheck that, and now I don't want that line either, so I'm just going to uncheck that. All right, so now I'm just going to go ahead and just do yes, you've got the simple copy paste just like you had somewhere else, but what you do have the ability to do is not just this copy paste, because of course the copy paste, you've got to make all the changes. We have these macros here, and you can utilize macros just by selecting intelligent circuits with all the information, including the manufacturer. So the manufacturer that I've got here, I can grab all of that and now just bring it in and make it a library component. Once I make it a library component, I can use it in multiple projects, and I never have to redesign it. So now I can come in here and just grab this, drag it in, and when I drop it, what you will see is that I have this paste special, which is going to let me create new marks for everything, or I can remove them, terminal strips, creating anything here. It's going to allow me to keep or create new positions for all of this. And I can even reset if somebody decided to try and change something manually. I could reset these manual marks so that way I could make sure that everything is done when I say finish. And notice what happens. Now I have a motor starter that says it's at, or a motor that says it's at 614, but it has a bill of materials. It has a new cable. It has a new disconnect. All of that information is now already done. This motor starter, I now want to say that that is part of that 820 motor starter. All I have to do is come up here, find that motor starter, and yes, I could do a simple quick search by saying I want it to be 820. I can now look here and notice what it does. It takes me directly to 820, to the contactor. I can say OK. What it has done in the background, these simple go-to statements are also available here. I can now go to that relay coil. It has also created and updated the cross-reference. Now, this cross-reference is a visual indicator here that you have with the contacts. So it is actually showing you what these contacts look like and where they are physically at. So for those that are not used to the old school, where you had that capability of having the numbers and the lines under them and needing that, here you've got a visual indicator that people now who could know before might not have understood what that was. now have that capability of just going ahead and drawing another schematic symbol directly onto their, they know what's available for them. I'm going to go ahead here and turn on an extra tool here, my symbol indicator, because here's what I want to do. I'm going to now do something that would take me a little bit longer if I were doing it in a scenario for draft site. I'm going to add another contact. And again, I'm going to add that 820. So now it's going to use that spare. And when it uses that spare, it's going to show you what it has available. So notice right now it is blue. When I add it, it now turns it green and automatically puts the cross-reference in. If I move this contact, notice that the cross-reference is updating immediately. I don't have to think twice about it. It is there. So when you start dealing with that type of stuff, of course, it becomes a lot quicker to deal with it this way in a tool that was built for creating schematics. As I showed you before, we were talking about the fact of what happens if a customer decides they want the entire project now to be numbered differently. Well, if I'm looking at just even these wires here, I could do these individually, or I could come in here to the wire style for this specific property. I could make these changes one at a time in each of the types of wires, or I could just go in here and make the change for all of them at one time. Here I'm going to do, this one is for this, we're going to do equipotential order number only. So I'm just going to grab that and delete it. And what this is going to allow me to do is now I can, with this process, again, it's just a process, remember all of the wires in this project, not just that one, but all of the project numbers. So I'm going to recalculate everything and say OK. And of course, I didn't do it right. Oh yeah, I did it right, but oh, I forgot to hit that reset manual wire number. So see what it did here? It created all the 16, 17, 18, and 19. I forgot to hit also to do when I'm hitting this renumber process wires here. Notice that there is a recalculate that manual wire number that I changed here up at the top. So of course I needed that one too, but I want it to be in order. So of course it's going to readjust everything again for me. So that here is the wire number that I am now using, is this wire number 39. You can make changes quickly here. I don't have to think about it. An entire project, if I make a mistake, I am coming back to it and making a change quickly. The software is monitoring it for me. So therefore, I'm not having to spend all that extra time doing those audits. That is what I am referring to with a purpose-built software. Because, of course, with being purpose-built, you have that capability of less mouse clicks for your changes. Therefore, you're becoming more efficient. Dennis, do you have anything you would like to add with it?
Sure. I don't think we're going to get into showing this today, but it's something that maybe bring up for conversation. And if you have any questions on this, it could be something that we do in a future date too. Let us know in the chat window. But a lot of times, even go back into my past life, dealing with circuit relays and the cross-references, we would track those things in some type of a other tool than CAD to keep them sorted out, like a spreadsheet document or a Word document. Be interested if you're doing that today. Again, that's one extra step and extra places that you have to go to manage your information in a project. Something like SOLIDWORKS Electrical starts to do away and consolidate a lot of that. And you'd also see is you go back in some of our other webinars, we talk about reports that we're able to generate. Not only is it updating information in the graphical windows and on the pages where you're putting your wire numbers, your cross-reference numbers, etc., it's also in those other reports that can start to really take a lot of time to keep up to date. So that's one other point to consider as we talk about change. Turn it back to you, Sherry.
All right, so let's keep in with the Effects of change here. Let's get into terminals. Everybody loves terminals, right? Yeah, I hated them too. So of course, if you're dealing with the draft site area and you're needing to add any type of terminal, adding the terminal is really no big deal because you're just doing a simple copy and you're probably doing a paste somewhere along the line. Oh, geez, Pete's, what did I do there? I'm not even going to bother to try and create this because, of course, obviously, I'm having all kinds of trouble with the draft site because draft site is just not my means for doing designs. But if I'm doing a design here, yes, it's just a copy, paste, and then, of course, it would be the next wire or the next terminal number. Well, in draft site or in any other CAD tool, creating a terminal strip drawing is another sheet that you would then have to worry about. So if you have your terminal strip drawing, if it's just a terminal, it might be something that you are having to now update if you have any other wire numbers available or that you put on your terminal sheet as far as where it goes. You're going to have to update those too. So you're not talking about just one spot or another spot in the schematic. You're also having to update the reports. Well, the reports we really haven't even looked at. I'm looking at just these sheets here, and I believe I might have a report or two, but of course, even doing that, what I'm looking at is, okay, go into open. All right, where is that sheet? Do I have it? I don't have a preview, so I can't actually see what, oh, there's the preview. All right, well, do I have that report? And I don't think that I do at this point. But so you're dealing with, you know, now I'm having to make some type of edit. This is a cable list here of these pieces, but it's not necessarily something that I can easily edit because it's in a table format because I did a copy paste. Oh my Lord, what a headache to make the changes to this report afterwards. I don't even want to do it. So I'm not. No, sorry, it's just one of those things. I'm not going to do a draft site because I prefer a purpose-built software that can make those changes for me. Now, my terminal strip, I can easily look at my terminal strip here just by highlighting a terminal, and I can see the terminal strip editor, and it shows me what's connected up, including this new cable here, which this new cable, you know what, maybe I want to change that cable to be something else. So I can make this change. I'm going to disassociate this cable core, and I'm going to associate it with a new cable core. And so I'm going to come in here and change it to W10 maybe. Let's look here what I've got for what filters am I using, or where am I going on this one. This cable I want, oh, I know what I've done. I've got to make a new cable. I've disassociated this cable. Look at the terminal strip now. I've already made that change, and it already shows here that these are now wires that are here instead of a cable. So that being the case, this change is very quick. On top of that, here's the next best thing. I can hit generate drawings. I can create this in a drawing type scenario. It's not something I have to do extra. It's not something that I have to deal with as far as all the templates and what it looks like and did I make the changes. Here it is here. Notice this one here. It is just wires now. So I have just these wires. If I wanted it to look like a cable, it would look like such. Adding a terminal is not really that hard, but of course you're dealing with adding a terminal to the terminal strip and drawing more information here and renumbering it, especially if you're dealing with the fact of just adding one after the fact. But who adds one at the very end, especially when you're dealing with modifications? Because really that is what we are talking about here, is the modification. If I am now adding a modification into an existing print where I need a terminal that doesn't exist at this moment. So if I am adding, well, I see I've got X2s and I've got X3s. Maybe I need to add an X1 here. And maybe I need it, well, the X1s are on the 480. So, okay, let's look at the X2 terminal strip. This X2 terminal strip, I've got one here, but maybe I need to add another terminal strip. Or maybe I need to add another terminal. I can come in here and just add a terminal. You know what? I'm going to do the hard way. I'm going to add a multitude of terminals. And I'm going to just draw a line and add some more terminals to this, and let's just say that they're all going in that direction. I'm going to add that into the main panels because that main panel is then going to go out to these other locations. It's going to make a new terminal strip called TV1, and already it is now done. What it is referring to is here's the terminal strip. If I now just delete that line, because of course I don't like seeing that line. Here's terminal 1, terminal 2, terminal 3. All of a sudden I can go ahead and right from here draw a terminal strip. And look what I have. I have a terminal strip that got created, and the terminal strip is done. I did not have to do anything other than my design aspect of adding the terminals. The terminals are done. The drawing strip is a one-button push to create. It's a template that the software uses, and it actually captures not only the terminal number, but also what wire number is coming in and going out, and also where it is connected to. So it's telling me from the PLC to this other terminal strip and which terminal. It's giving me all that information at the click of a button. I'm not having to deal with all that extra CAD medial work that takes up more time than anything else than the design, because of course the design, I know the design. Why do I want to have to waste my time doing the same thing, auditing my work? So yes, again, this is just another aspect of that becomes extremely easy to do. So terminals, you're dealing with the fact that you're dealing with less effort to create these. There's very little that you have to do with that. Dennis, do you have any points that you would like to make with this? I'm sure customers spend a little bit of time either creating terminal strip drawings or don't create them at all. What is your perspective?
I think, Sherry, again, good overview there. We consistently hear that customers on tight schedules do tend to skip the creation of terminal diagrams or reports. And the downside to that we consistently hear from management operations especially is that when panels come into manufacturing, that's information that helps downstream quite a bit, as well as when your systems get out in the field for troubleshooting and final installation. So a lot of value to terminal drawings, but lots of times it's a lot of overhead on the engineering side.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. All right, so the last area that we're going to get into is page addition. Now, I hate to say it, but I don't even want to consider this in the draft site arena because, of course, now the easy part is doing a copy paste and renaming, or opening up a sheet and just doing a file save and then just saying, okay, now I'm going to go ahead and delete some of this part. That is the easy part, but of course, if you are dealing with the common aspect that I'm used to with the sheet number, row number, even for the components, now I've got all that renumbering to do. Not only here, but in every project, or in every sheet, and every report, every area that utilize any portion of this, I'm now having to make a change to. Adding a page, especially in the middle of a project, can be just absolutely horrendous. I'm going to look at it here in this scenario where I am dealing with the schematic instead, the schematic software. I'm going to add a page that is after page 6 here, but before page 8. So right now, page 8 has all these numbers of sheet number, row number, for the different components. So I'm going to add a new page in here in between these. By doing so, obviously everything after it has to change, but everything before it doesn't. However, on top of that, the cross references now need to be changed for where everything is at. So let's just go ahead and do it. Let's just bite the bullet. I'm going to say new schematic. I'm going to take that new schematic and I'm going to drop it in here in between page 6, after page 6. And now, of course, if this was an older project, it might be a 6A or something like that. Or if it's a newer project that you haven't released for final build, then there would be the capability or possibility that it might just be the new page 7. So I am now going to go ahead and renumber these drawings just by clicking a button. I'm going to say renumber. Notice I have a renumber of drawings. Again, change is a process. Let's go to process. Process, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to update the marks. When I deal with updating the marks, I am dealing with the fact that all the components will be changed throughout the entire project. I can go ahead and say yes, because yes, it's going to happen. I know that's what's going to be the case. I am also going to change all of the wire numbers. So again, I'm going to renumber the wires. I'm going to recalculate everything in the project. Now, of course, the numbers shouldn't be anything major at this point. I can do it now or I can do it after I drop a schematic onto this new page. But I am going to change this right now because some of those are still using sheet number, row number. That's why I didn't end up changing all of them. So notice what you have. Originally, we had page 6 and page 8 open, and then it opened this new page 7, which I'm going to go ahead and close. Here's the old page 8. Everything is now showing sheet number 9. Those numbers are still coming up correctly. Here we have this. Look, we've got the cross references here are now updated with that, the go-to, but also with the fact that that new sheet number physically exists. So you have that type of information right here and now at your fingertips. That change has also affected even page 6 because now, of course, the motor starters are now at page 9. Think of how much time that would have caused me or you or any of your counterparts, depending on what software they are using, to make these same types of changes. Something that sounds simple, like add a page to a project. Yeah, if it's at the end of the project, it's great. In the middle of a project, that's a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. Even the cross-references have been updated. Well, I showed you that to begin with because, of course, we looked here. And then you can actually see that the cross-reference here has not actually changed. This one has, because, of course, this one now is on page 9. So the SQL database is actually keeping track of every little aspect that you've got. With that, that is what I wanted to show you here with this page addition. You're talking about major effects to how much time would consume you as an auditor rather than as an engineer. So you are having less design time with a purpose-built tool like SOLIDWORKS Electrical Schematic. So we are looking at the fact that you have less audits of your work, less mouse clicks, less effort to create, and less design time. What does that all boil down to? It boils down to time. Time is money, quoting Benjamin Franklin. We've all heard time is money. It's not only money, but it's also satisfaction that you are doing the job that you were hired to do and not hired as an auditor to do that type of work. It's also in a matter of that you can be more efficient, and you can also have more time for the other things in life, or whether it be home life, because you won't have to work as much overtime to audit those projects, or whether it be just that you've got more time to take on more projects because that's what you enjoy. Either way, SOLIDWORKS Electrical, consider that to be the right tool for the job that you are looking for. Dennis and I, since we didn't have polls, we were trying to set up so that we wanted to find out whether you enjoyed this webinar, along with what other webinar information or area would you like to see. Please, either in the chat window or in the questions window, put down a topic that you would like to see more of, whether it be SOLIDWORKS Electrical 3D, whether it be machine build, harnessing, any aspect. If you will give me any solutions that you would like to see, either in the chat window, in the questions window, or by emailing me direct, I will try and get those webinars created so that we can go through some of the stuff that is very important to you. Dennis, do you have anything that you would like to add?
Thanks, Sherry. I don't know, I kind of feel like you just took me back through a trip down memory lane there. A lot of that AutoCAD stuff starting to, I'm going to have nightmares tonight, I think. My old 2D life. So I don't know if I should thank you or not on that, but hopefully everybody found this very informative. And as Sherry mentioned, you know, if there's other topics that you have, seen a couple things coming into the question area now that you deal with on a regular basis, we'd love to hear that. Appreciate your feedback on what kind of challenges are facing you. We're going to be doing a lot of different things this year with more consistent webinars and tips on different subjects. So if you're in the design world with electrical as your discipline, we'd love to get that feedback so we know we're going down the right direction. And something that you kind of touched on it at the end there, Sherry, too, is something that we hear from management teams that we speak with on a regular basis is more and more the economy is picking back up, and opportunity loss is also another consideration that's getting a lot of mind share these days. So how can your company operate more effectively so that they can do more business? Because if you survive the economic downturn, the challenge is now ramping up as a resource to your customers for more business as the economy does begin to pick back up. And how can you be effective and lay the groundwork for that additional business to take advantage of the opportunities? So we look forward to having those conversations with you. Again, get in touch with Sherry or with your account manager if you'd like to discuss more one-on-one with us, and we welcome that opportunity moving forward. Thanks a lot, Sherry. Appreciate the webinar today.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dennis, for your help, and thanks to all of you attendees who did stick with us through this webinar. And we look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day, and I'm going to go ahead and close out this session.